There is only one really serious philosophical question, wrote Albert Camus, and that is suicide. With this bold opening, Camus confronts a haunting problem. What is the meaning of life? If the world is devoid of gods or any cosmic plan, if the universe answers our search for purpose with silence, why not simply give up? Camus calls this existential tension the absurd, the clash between the human need for meaning and the universe's indifferent silence. We crave order and purpose, yet we live in a world that offers neither. Rather than resigning, Camus urges us to stare this absurdity in the face without flinching. In a voice both dark and empathetic, he explores how we might live on passionately, despite life's apparent meaninglessness. Camus defined the absurd as the futility of a search for meaning in an incomprehensible universe, devoid of God or meaning. Life's grand questions meet only unreasonable silence. Yet we humans cannot stop asking, why are we here? What's the purpose of all this? We desperately seek order, meaning, happiness. But the natural world offers no easy answers. This paradox, our hunger for meaning versus the world's indifference, is the crux of the absurd. And it's the starting point of Camus' philosophy. Rather than turning to religion or other comforting illusions, what Camus calls philosophical suicide, he demands we face reality head-on. Imagine waking up to a world without any script, no given purpose, no grand design. It can feel overwhelming, even hopeless. Camus' own life, marked by war, resistance, and loss, taught him that meaning isn't handed down from above. We have to create it ourselves. The question is, how do we respond once we realize life has no pre-written meaning? Camus' answer comes in the form of a vivid ancient myth, a story that mirrors our own struggle for purpose. The myth of Sisyphus, the eternal struggle. In Greek mythology, Sisyphus was a clever king who dared to defy the gods. His crimes were audacious. He chained death itself and outsmarted the gods to briefly return from the underworld. As punishment for his rebellion, the gods condemned Sisyphus to a fate like no other. For all eternity, he must roll a huge boulder up a mountain. Straining every muscle, he pushes the rock toward the summit, only to watch it tumble back down just before reaching the top. Over and over, forever. The gods, Camus notes, had thought with some reason that there is no more dreadful punishment than futile and hopeless labor. In this ceaseless, cyclic struggle, any hope of victory is dashed. Sisyphus's toil starts anew the moment it ends. There is no more dreadful punishment than futile and hopeless labor. Picture Sisyphus at the foot of that mountain. Every morning he wraps his arms around the cold stone and begins the push. Every evening he watches in exhausted silence as his life's work literally rolls back to where it began. This eternal struggle is as tragic as it is absurd. Endless effort, no ultimate payoff. Sisyphus's rock and mountain are a metaphor, a mirror for the human condition. Are we too laboring for nothing? Camus draws a daring parallel between Sisyphus's punishment and modern life. The workman of today works every day in his life at the same tasks, and this fate is no less absurd. Our daily routines, commuting to work, washing dishes, studying for exams, paying bills, can feel like pushing a boulder uphill only to have it roll down again. Life's tasks repeat in an unending loop, sometimes feeling devoid of meaning. To Camus, Sisyphus isn't just a mythological figure. He's us. Sisyphus, proletarian of the gods, powerless and rebellious, knows the whole extent of his wretched condition. His awareness of his fate is what makes it tragic, just as we sometimes awaken to the monotony of our own lives and ask, is this all there is? The tragedy of Sisyphus lies in that moment of clarity, when he recognizes the absurdity of his labor. Camus writes, "It is tragic only at the rare moments when it becomes conscious." Likewise, in our lives, a routine may seem fine when we're on autopilot, but at those sharp moments of self-awareness, the weight of existential dread can hit. We realize we are pushing our own boulders, day in and day out, and the top of the hill always resets to the bottom. The Myth of Sisyphus captured Camus' imagination because it perfectly symbolizes the human predicament. An indifferent universe has condemned us to search for meaning that it will not give. Like Sisyphus's rock, all our achieved goals eventually roll back down. No matter how far we advance, death will undo our deeds, and time will erase our accomplishments. It sounds devastating, and indeed the gods thought it the cruelest punishment. But Camus asks a daring question. What if Sisyphus can be happy? What if we, living in a world without inherent meaning, can still find joy? Conscious defiance. Sisyphus as the absurd hero. Camus recasts Sisyphus, not as a defeated victim, but as the ultimate hero of the absurd. One can see now why Sisyphus is the absurd hero, Camus writes. His scorn of the gods, his hatred of death, and his passion for life won him that unspeakable penalty, in which his whole being is exerted toward accomplishing nothing. Paradoxically, it's precisely Sisyphus's unyielding spirit that earned him his punishment. He loved life so much that he tricked death to live again. He defied the gods out of contempt for their authority. These very traits, loving life, hating death, rebelling against any higher power that tries to dominate him, mark him as an absurd hero. Why hero? Because, Camus argues, Sisyphus embodies how we should respond to the absurd condition, with conscious defiance and unrelenting vitality. What does Sisyphus think as he walks back down the mountain, knowing all his work was for nothing? This is where Camus finds victory in the defeat. During that descent, Sisyphus is totally lucid. He grasps the futility of his situation. This is the crucial moment. Camus imagines that instead of despairing, Sisyphus accepts his fate fully, even embraces it. In that moment of truth, Camus says, Sisyphus is superior to his fate. He is stronger than his rock. By recognizing that there's no hope his task will ever end, Sisyphus robs the gods of their power to hurt him. They wanted to break his spirit with an absurd labor, but he refuses to be broken. Sisyphus, in Camus' words, knows the whole extent of his wretched condition, yet there is no fate that cannot be surmounted by scorn. In scorning the gods and the hopelessness of his task, Sisyphus transcends it. This mindset turns his punishment into a kind of triumph of the human spirit. Camus draws three key lessons, three pillars of this defiant attitude from Sisyphus's story. When we fully acknowledge the absurd, without running or hiding, we discover revolt, freedom, and passion. These are the values of the absurd hero, the tools by which we live without meaning, yet not in despair. Revolt, a constant rebellion against the absurd. This isn't a physical revolt, but an inner stance, It means refusing to give in to nihilism or false hopes. Sisyphus's endless labor is absurd, yet he keeps pushing. In our lives, revolt means waking up each day and choosing to live fully, even knowing no grand meaning awaits. It's a passionate no to suicide and a yes to the day's struggle on our own terms. Freedom. The absurd, paradoxically, frees us. If there is no predetermined meaning or destiny, everything is permitted, as Camus echoes Dostoevsky, not in a nihilistic sense, but in liberation. We are free to create our own meaning moment by moment. Sisyphus has no destiny except the one he defines in each push of the rock. Camus says that once we accept that there's no higher plan, we also accept that there is no fate that cannot be surmounted. We become the masters of our days. This freedom is not of escaping the absurd, but of living without appeal to someone else's rules. Passion. Camus urges us to live life to the fullest, in quantity and intensity, rather than worrying about some lofty moral perfection. If the universe won't give us meaning, then the meaning is in the living itself. Sisyphus experiences every moment, the strain of his muscles, the warmth of the sun he snuck a second life to feel, the texture of the rock under his hands, with total presence. In Camus' words, what counts is not the best living, but the most living. Embrace the ordinary joys, the taste of coffee in the morning, the laughter with friends, the satisfaction of a day's work, however small. Pour passion into the here and now, since there is no eternity to wait for. Sisyphus, through revolt, freedom, and passion, finds a kind of contentment amid the absurd. He lives without appeal, meaning he doesn't appeal to God or to a future heaven for meaning. He owns his reality. Camus describes this state as a strange form of happiness. After all his analysis, Camus famously concludes, "One must imagine Sisyphus happy." It's a provocative image, the tragic, sweat-stained figure of Sisyphus. Happy? Yes. Happy because he has conquered the one thing he could control: his mindset. By accepting the absurd fully, by loving his fate, amor fati, as Nietzsche might put it, Sisyphus robs the gods of their victory. The rock is still rolling, but the despair is gone. What remains is clarity, perseverance, and yes, even joy. Modern life and the endless boulder. How does all this apply to us, here and now? Camus' insight is not locked in ancient myth. It's alive in our everyday lives. Think of your own boulder. Maybe it's the repetitive grind of a job you only tolerate, the stack of dirty dishes that refills every evening, the endless emails that spawn more replies, or the daily battle with depression or anxiety that greets you each morning. Modern existence often feels like pushing a rock uphill. The moment you finish one assignment or errand, another appears. The inbox never stays empty. The laundry basket magically refills. The newsfeed refreshes with more to read. In the digital age, even scrolling on social media can feel Sisyphusian, an infinite feed with no bottom, a search for validation or novelty that never reaches satisfaction. It's easy to feel trapped in a loop, our efforts perpetually undone overnight, like Sisyphus's toil. This is where Camus' message shines most. He asks us to pause and consider. If life's inherent lack of meaning is akin to an endless push of a rock, how should we respond? Despair is one option, to let the futility crush us. But Camus offers another path, to embrace the push itself, to say, yes, this is absurd, and I will live it anyway, and live it well. Rather than hoping for the day the rock stays at the top, which it never will, we find meaning in the very act of pushing. In practical terms, find value in today's work, even if it will be undone tomorrow. Find joy in the process, not the outcome. As Camus puts it, efforts and resilience, not suicide and despair, are the appropriate responses to absurdity. The daily grind may not have grand meaning, but how you approach it is where meaning can be created. Attitude becomes everything. Imagine tackling your daily tasks as Sisyphus does his, fully aware they won't last, yet fully engaged in the moment of doing them. Wash the dishes not for some eternal reward, but because cleaning them is your task now, and you accept it. Answer those emails or do that homework as an act of living, here and now. Without projecting, if I just finish, life will be complete. Life will never be complete, and that is not a curse. It's just the human condition. Once we let go of waiting for life to finally make sense, we can invest in what's in front of us. This mindset can transform monotony into a form of freedom. If there's no final exam called life to pass or fail, every quiz along the way is just an experience to live. If there's no final victory to win, each small struggle holds its own significance.
Camus isn't giving us a saccharine motivational slogan. He's giving us a hard-won existential strategy. He knows life can feel empty and exhausting, yet, by adopting Sisyphus's stance of rebellious acceptance, we protect ourselves against disillusionment. We stop asking, "What's the point?" and start responding, "Perhaps there is none, but I decide to push on anyway." In that decision lies our dignity and strength. It's about resilience. I will carry on. I will make my own meanings, however temporary, through loving, creating, working, helping, and experiencing. This is a kind of everyday heroism open to all of us. Camus believed that in living absurdly, that is, in full awareness of life's absurdity, one could find a profound authenticity and fulfillment. By not pinning our worth on some cosmic prize, we liberate ourselves to truly live, moment by moment, rock by rock. Think of the freedom this grants. If the summit means nothing definitive, then every step upward matters in itself. We can find small meanings, the pride in a job well done, the love we give and receive, the beauty in a quiet morning or a starry night, even though none of it lasts forever. In embracing the absurd cycle of life, we paradoxically alleviate its sting. The rock rolls down. We start again, like a dance that never ends. And maybe that's okay. In Camus' vision, happiness and the absurd are not enemies, but two sons of the same earth, inseparable. By accepting the absurd, we permit ourselves to be happy in spite of it. Embracing the absurd, one must imagine Sisyphus happy. In the end, Camus gives us a radical thought. Embrace life exactly as it is. Absurd, fleeting, and repetitive, and you will find that it can still be profoundly worth living. We return to that iconic final line. One must imagine Sisyphus happy. This is not a cheap happiness. It's the hard-won joy of someone who has looked the truth in the eye and still said yes to life. Sisyphus pushes his boulder up the hill once more, each step an act of rebellion and freedom. We too, in our lives, push on,
Not because we'll reach some ultimate high point that lasts, but because the very pushing is living. Life may feel like forever rolling a stone that never stays put. Yet in bravely knowing and embracing this endless cycle, we can find our own kind of freedom, defiance, and even happiness, just like Sisyphus. The absurdity of our condition is undeniable, but it need not paralyze us. Instead, it can inspire us to live more deliberately, more authentically. Every day when that alarm rings and you face another ascent with your personal boulder, remember Sisyphus. In each step lies meaning, a meaning we create. And as Camus urges, imagine him happy. In doing so, we might learn to imagine ourselves happy too, here and now, without needing any higher reason. In this silence, the video lingers on the notion that even without cosmic meaning, our lives are ours to live. And that is meaning enough. And so the rock rolls on, and so do we. If this descent with Camus has spoken to you, remember, the struggle itself is enough to fill a heart. If you found meaning here, even in the absence of meaning, walk with us again. Subscribe, so that together we can keep pushing these questions uphill.